If you sleep poorly for years, does that mean you're guaranteed to get Alzheimer's? That's a terrifying thought, especially if you spent decades struggling to get a full night's rest. Maybe your sleep problems started after menopause, or maybe they followed you since your 30s, and now, in your 60s, 70s, or even your 80s, you're wondering if it's too late to undo the damage, too late to protect your brain, too late to fight back. But here's the truth, it's not. Science is starting to show us something hopeful. Your brain doesn't need perfection, it needs consistency. And even if you've had a lifetime of broken sleep, your next step still matters. Deep, restful sleep isn't just a luxury anymore. It's becoming one of the most powerful tools we have to protect memory and slow down cognitive decline. And maybe you're thinking, but I only get 4 hours a night if I'm lucky. Or, I've tried every remedy and nothing helps. You're not alone. This video isn't about shaming your sleep history. It's about giving you real science-backed reasons to believe you still have a say in how your brain ages, even if you haven't slept well in years. So what exactly is the link between sleep and Alzheimer's? And is there still time to change your future? Let's dive in. Alzheimer's runs on both sides of my family. I've watched people I love slowly forget names, places, memories, even the faces of their own children. It's not just about memory loss. It's about watching someone disappear in slow motion while they're still sitting at the dinner table with you. That kind of experience doesn't leave you. It made me wonder, was there anything I could do? Anything I could start doing before the symptoms arrived? I wasn't looking for a miracle cure. I was just searching for a little control in a disease that often feels like chaos. And that's when I started paying attention to the research on sleep. It wasn't just because I enjoy a good nap. It was because the science was pointing to something powerful. More and more studies were revealing a connection between poor sleep and the early buildup of toxic proteins in the brain. The very same proteins that show up in Alzheimer's disease. That hit hard because, like many of you, I've had years where sleep felt optional. I thought skipping a few hours here and there was just part of life. I didn't realize that those missed nights could have a long-term cost. But what really caught my attention wasn't the fear, it was the hope. The data wasn't just showing that bad sleep increased risk, it was also showing that good sleep, especially deep, consistent sleep, might lower your risk. Even if you had a family history, even if you were already older, even if you'd never been a great sleeper, that was the moment I knew. If there's one thing I want to understand, it's how sleep might protect the mind and how we can all use it before it's too late. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when you sleep and what happens when you don't. Your brain is like your kitchen after a big dinner. During the day, your mind is busy, thinking, remembering, reacting, managing emotions. That work leaves behind waste, just like dirty dishes in the sink. But unlike your kitchen, you can't just wash your brain with soap and water. It has its own built-in cleaning crew. Scientists call it the glymphatic system, and it's only been discovered in the last decade. Think of it like a tiny plumbing network made from glial cells, helpers in your brain that work alongside neurons. This system doesn't run 24 hours a day. It has one shift while you're in deep sleep. During deep non-REM sleep, your brain cells actually shrink a little, making space for fluid to wash through the tissue. That fluid carries away waste, including two key toxins, beta amyloid and tau proteins. These are the very proteins that build up in Alzheimer's disease. So what happens if you don't get enough deep sleep? The cleanup doesn't happen. And over time, those proteins start to collect. They clump together into sticky plaques and tangles. Day after day, night after night, it adds up, like dishes piling in the sink. Eventually, the buildup gets in the way of memory, learning, even personality. That's not just theory. In one study, adults who were deprived of deep sleep for just a single night showed measurable increases in amyloid and tau the very next day, in both brain scans and spinal fluid. And the scariest part? Even a full night of recovery sleep afterward couldn't fully clear it out. But here's what's important. This isn't about perfection, it's about pattern. One bad night won't doom your brain, but years of poor sleep, especially poor deep sleep, can quietly push you closer to risk. You may not feel it right away, but your brain does. So instead of thinking, I'll catch up on the weekend, ask this. What if every night of deep sleep was your brain's chance to take out the trash? And what if skipping that chance meant leaving damage behind? That's what the science is starting to show us. There's one part of this story that still haunts me, and it's what scientists call the vicious cycle. Here's how it works. The very parts of your brain that help you fall into deep, restorative sleep, especially the middle frontal lobe, are also the first to be damaged by Alzheimer's disease. That means the disease doesn't just grow silently, it attacks your ability to fight back. Think about that. The less deep sleep you get, the more those toxic proteins build up. But the more they build up, the harder it becomes for your brain to enter deep sleep. One feeds the other, like a wheel spinning faster and faster in the wrong direction. Instead of just being a consequence of Alzheimer's, poor sleep might also speed it up. That's what studies are now confirming. People who experience disrupted sleep, either from insomnia or sleep apnea, show faster progression from early memory issues to full-blown Alzheimer's. One meta-analysis found that people with sleep problems had nearly 4 times the risk of developing Alzheimer's-related symptoms early. That's not a small number. That's a warning. But it also explains why so many people feel stuck. You might be trying to sleep, doing all the right things. Dark room, no screens, even melatonin. And yet sleep still doesn't come, or it comes in pieces. A few hours here, a nap there, never enough. And maybe, just maybe, it's not your fault. It could be that your brain is already struggling to generate the deep sleep waves you need. That's not laziness. That's not age. That's neurology. But here's the good news. Even though the cycle exists, there's strong evidence that improving sleep, even later in life, can still help slow it down. In early stage cases, deep sleep stimulation has been shown to boost memory performance the next day. And consistent sleep patterns have helped people regain more deep sleep over time. So instead of believing you're doomed by age or genes, what if you saw sleep not just as rest, but as resistance? What if every night you get even a little more deep sleep, you tip the cycle back in your favor? Because that's what the research is starting to reveal. And that's where hope begins. For years, the story around Alzheimer's has been filled with frustration. No cure, no treatment that really works. And once symptoms appear, it often feels too late. But what if we've been looking in the wrong stage of the disease? Instead of only treating Alzheimer's at the end, scientists are now turning their focus to the beginning. And that's where sleep is becoming a game changer. You see, sleep is one of the few brain functions that is both vital and modifiable. That means we can influence it, change it, train it, even as we age. And recent studies are starting to show that improving sleep might not only slow down Alzheimer's, it might even prevent it from starting. Let's look at the facts. In a long-term study from Berkeley, adults in their 50s and 60s who consistently got better sleep had fewer Alzheimer's proteins in their brains decades later. That's not just chance, that's biology. Another study from UCSF followed over 500 people for more than a decade. They didn't just measure hours slept, they measured sleep quality. What they found was striking. People who had fragmented sleep, waking up often or sleeping restlessly, performed significantly worse on brain tests years later. And this happened even if they got the same number of total hours. That tells us something important. It's not just how long you sleep, It's how well you sleep. But what about genetics? Some of you may be thinking, I have the Alzheimer's gene. What's the point? Well, research from the Wisconsin Alzheimer's Prevention Group found that even in people with high genetic risk, including those with the APOE4 gene, lifestyle made a big difference. People who slept well, exercised, and managed stress had lower chances of memory problems, even if their genes said otherwise. That's empowering. And here's something even more surprising. In a small clinical trial, people took a sleep aid for just 2 nights, and their brain fluid showed lower levels of amyloid and tau. The drop happened fast. Now, that doesn't mean we all need to reach for sleeping pills. Most of them don't create the kind of natural deep sleep the brain needs, but it shows something powerful. Your brain is always listening, always responding. That's why researchers are exploring new, non-invasive methods, like brainwave stimulation during sleep. By syncing with your brain's natural rhythms, early trials show it might boost the very waves that help wash away Alzheimer's toxins. Imagine a future where sleep therapy is as normal as brushing your teeth. We're not there yet, but it's coming. And it means that for the first time, we're not just looking at Alzheimer's as something to fear, but something we can fight with consistency, with better habits, and with science that finally puts sleep at the center of brain health. When does it really begin? That's the question researchers keep asking. Not about when Alzheimer's shows up, but when it actually starts. And the answer keeps pointing earlier than most people think. Not in your 70s, not even in your 60s, but often in your 40s and 50s. Studies have shown that the decline in deep sleep, the kind your brain needs to clean itself each night, begins as early as your mid-30s. Quietly, slowly, without warning. And unless you're measuring it, you may never even notice. But your brain notices. And that's why midlife may be the most powerful window we have. Because by the time symptoms show up, damage may already be decades in the making. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, maybe literally. In fact, a recent study followed people in their early 40s, tracking their sleep with wearable devices for over a decade. Those with the most disrupted sleep, not necessarily less time in bed, but more tossing, turning, waking up, showed significantly worse memory, processing speed, and executive function later on. And here's what's so important. That decline didn't happen in a week. It didn't even happen in a year. It happened slowly over many nights when everything seemed fine on the surface. That's why now matters. Because midlife is when sleep patterns are still flexible. Your habits haven't hardened. Your brain still has plasticity. And most importantly, your body still responds well to small changes. Instead of waiting until forgetfulness becomes frightening, we can invest now in habits that help preserve memory later. Think of it like retirement savings. You don't wait until you're 70 to start. You plan early, grow steadily, and benefit for decades. The same goes for sleep. So if you're in your 40s or 50s and wondering if it's too early to think about Alzheimer's, it's not. It's the perfect time. Because prevention doesn't happen someday. It happens tonight. You might be wondering, okay, I get it. Sleep matters, but what do I actually do? Here's the good news. Improving sleep doesn't always require medication, expensive devices, or perfect routines. What it does require is consistency. And for most people, small shifts can make a big difference. So let's talk about 5 simple things you can start doing today to support deeper, more restorative sleep. The kind your brain needs to clear out toxins and protect memory. 1. Wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your brain loves rhythm. One of the best ways to reset your internal clock is by keeping a consistent wake-up time. Not bedtime, wake-up time. That anchors your sleep system and makes it easier to fall asleep naturally each night. 2. Get 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight within the first hour of waking. Morning light tells your brain, this is day, It helps shut off melatonin, boosts serotonin, and begins the countdown for your next night's sleep. If you can step outside, even better. If not, sit by a window. Light in the morning leads to better melatonin at night. 3. Cut screens 90 minutes before bed. Phones, tablets, and TVs aren't just distractions. They emit blue light that tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. Try replacing screens with something calming, soft music, light reading, or even just silence. 4. Keep your bedroom cool, quiet, and dark. Your body needs a drop in core temperature to fall into deep sleep. Ideal room temperature, around 65 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees Celsius. Use blackout curtains or a sleep mask if needed, and eliminate noise with a fan or white noise machine. 5. Avoid heavy meals, caffeine, and alcohol at least 3 hours before bed. Digestion and deep sleep don't mix. While alcohol might help you fall asleep, it disrupts the sleep cycle and reduces time spent in restorative phases. And even just 1 cup of coffee after lunch could still be in your system at midnight. Now, do all 5 of these things guarantee perfect sleep? No. But instead of chasing miracles, think about stacking wins. Instead of trying harder, try more consistently. Because your brain doesn't need flawless, it needs enough. And every small improvement in sleep today is an investment in memory tomorrow. If you've struggled with sleep for years, you're not alone. And if you've been afraid that it's too late to protect your brain, it's not. Science is giving us hope, and sleep may be one of the most powerful tools we still have. So if this video helped you, share it with someone who needs the same reminder. And if you want more brain-saving science in everyday language, go ahead and subscribe, because your future and your mind are still worth protecting.